I got another one for you. What's up? Welcome to the Valenti Vod. I'm your perfect and humble leader, Chris Valenti. Again, Kristi Noem, the head of the DHS, Department of Homeland Security, the plastic-faced bitch, she's getting grilled by Senator Chris Van Hollen. Now, you probably know the name Senator Chris Van Hollen. Well, that's the Maryland senator who went to El Salvador to meet with Kilmar Abrego Garcia, the man who was erroneously deported to the extermination camp called CCOT. This man is not an illegal immigrant. He's not a member of MS-13. He's not a gang member. He's not a criminal. He's never been convicted of a crime. The Trump regime admitted themselves that they accidentally deported this man. This goes without debate. If you disagree with anything I said, you're simply stupid. Your opinion means nothing because this isn't opinionated. I haven't given you my opinion yet. I've given you only facts. But we're going to watch Chris Van Hollen, the brave Maryland senator who went all the way. He's also, dude, like all these Republican chuds are advocating for him to be arrested because they're all fascists. But we're going to watch him fucking grill this plastic-faced bitch. And hopefully it'll be cathartic. I haven't watched this yet, but we're going to watch it together.
Senator Van Hollen.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chairman. Madam Secretary, it's good to see you.
Good to see you, too.
And I was glad to see in your recent testimony that you reaffirmed your obligations to uphold the Constitution of the United States. And I understand you had an exchange with Senator Murphy on the Abrego Garcia case. And so I'm just going to put the question directly to you. Are you or DHS doing anything to comply with the 9-0 Supreme Court order to facilitate his return to the United States? Just yes or no.
This administration is following all federal court orders.
Madam Secretary, this is a simple question.
It's the president's prerogative on conversations that
Madam
happen
Chair,
with the president of El Salvador.
I ask a simple question. We have a limited amount of time. I just asked you, Madam Secretary, whether or not you or the Department of Homeland Security are taking any action to facilitate the 9-0 Supreme Court decision to facilitate his return. This is a very simple question. Are you?
What he's talking about, real quick, guys, the Supreme Court ruled 9-0, unanimous decision, despite the fact that Trump packed the Supreme Court 6-3, right? They still ruled unanimously, you must facilitate the return of Kilmar Abrego Garcia. And the Trump regime is completely and utterly defying the Supreme Court because Donald Trump is not a president. Donald Trump is an authoritarian dictator.
Taking any action to facilitate his return, or are you not?
This administration is following and complying with all federal court orders.
So
incorrect.
To make sure that we
So you are, because the court ordered that you facilitate his return. So you are facilitating his return.
Sir, Senator, thank you for the question. But what I would
Madam
tell you
Secretary,
is that we are following court orders
Madam
and that your advocacy for a known terrorist is alarming to me.
Madam Secretary.
That's defamation. That was illegal. What she just said was defamation, and Kilmar Abrego Garcia can sue her for that. He is not a known terrorist. That is a complete and bold-faced lie. The thing is, if you say a lie enough, people will believe it. And we already see this because uneducated, brainworm-ridden MAGA chuds, incel, idiot inbreds, are parroting this talking point. Well, he's the fucking terrorist, bro. No, he's not. That's not true whatsoever. Show me the charge.
Coming to me because he's a human smuggler.
Madam Secretary, I'm going to have to reclaim
and a
it.
terrorist, and he's not a U.S. citizen. He's a citizen of El Salvador, and he's home. If he were to come back
Madam
here,
Secretary,
we would take him immediately.
All right,
back
I'm going to have to, Madam Secretary, you should know a couple facts then, which is, number one, in 2019, the Immigration Court said that he should not be returned to El Salvador because it would put his life in danger. The Trump administration at the time did not appeal that decision. After that, he got a work permit and was working legally in the United States of America. This is also why the district court and the appellate court and the Supreme Court have ruled as they have. I suggest that rather than make these statements here, that you and the Trump administration make them in court under oath, because despite what you
Never in a million fucking years would Kristi Noem say that that man is a terrorist under oath. Why? Because that's perjury. That's a lie. He's not a terrorist. That's a lie. And again, if you're watching this and you don't like me, your opinion doesn't matter. He's not a terrorist. Facts don't care about your feelings, sweet, sweet summer child.
Just said, the federal district court whose judge is hearing this case right now said, and I'm quoting, that the administration has provided no evidence linking Abrego Garcia to MS-13 or any other terrorist activity. I'm not vouching for the man. I'm vouching for his due process rights.
Yes, you are, sir. You've
No,
been vouching for
Madam
him.
Secretary, with
I would
respect.
suggest that you defend and
Madam,
stand alongside the victims of illegal crime.
This is political
in this country,
rhetoric.
the citizens who live here and are United States Americans. I would suggest you advocate for them as hard
Madam
as you do
Secretary,
those foreign terrorists.
I know you're doing a political speech
No,
here.
I'm
I
not,
get it.
sir.
I'm asking questions of law. No, you're just spewing
I truly
rhetoric.
believe this. I
Well, you're
truly believe
spewing
this
rhetoric.
as an
Let me ask
American.
you this: Do you agree with Justice Scalia in the Supreme Court opinion in Reno v. Flores that, I'm quoting, "It is well established that the Fifth Amendment entitles aliens to due process of law in deportation proceedings." End of quote.
Sir, we are utilizing every due process tool that this Congress has afforded us.
Incorrect. That's a direct fucking lie.
The Congress decides what
Madam
due process
Secretary,
is appropriate for every situation. Expedited removal is a due process that you have afforded us that we are utilizing. The alien enemy.
Expedited removal is a due process. That's not what due process is. That's not what we're saying when we bring it. I'm not kidding. I actually think these people need to be arrested. Kristi Noem needs to be fucking arrested. That is, you are the head of the Department of Homeland Security, and you do not know what due process is. This woman needs to be thrown in a fucking prison cell.
Reclaim my
tool that
time,
we're
Madam
utilizing.
Secretary.
So
You
we are
are,
giving due
Madam
process
Secretary.
and using the tools
Madam
that
Secretary,
this Congress has given
this
us
is
to use.
really, I'm asking sort of simple questions of law, and simple questions like, are you complying with the 9-0 Supreme Court decision? And you seem to think that's some kind of trick question. Let me ask you this. You were down at CCOT in El Salvador, and you said, and that I'm quoting, "It is one of the tools in the toolkit that we will use." And it's well known that the Trump administration is paying the government of El Salvador to keep these individuals, including those who the U.S. courts have determined were illegally taken out of the country in violation of their due process rights. Have you seen the grant document between the United States and the government of El Salvador with respect to the CCOT?
It's important that everybody knows the consequences of what
Great way
happens
to
for their
avoid the
actions
question.
in this country. When you break the law and you're a member of a foreign
Madam
terrorist
Secretary, I asked you a
organization, there are
question. Have you
consequences
seen
to
the
that.
document? This is not hard.
Yes, I have.
Okay. And what are the provisions of the document? So do you know what entities in El Salvador are
Sir,
receiving
I'm
the
sure
funds?
you can see this document as well and have looked
my
at it for
God.
evaluation.
I'm glad you
as
raised
well.
that, Madam Secretary, because I sent you a letter along with many of my colleagues here on April 8th asking for, among other things, that document. Will you respond to the letter that we sent?
I will respond to your letter.
Can I get
Been
some
over
sense
a
of
month,
when?
cunt.
We will take a look at it. I don't remember seeing your letter yet, but I will certainly
Well,
take a
it's
look
been
at
there
it
over a
and give you a
month.
response.
The senator's time has
No,
expired.
Madam Chair.
Senator Kennedy?
Madam Chair.
Madam Secretary.
Secretary.
kidding?
I have some additional questions.
No,
related
sir,
to
that's up
fire
to you
cap.
to manage that time. Senator Kennedy?
Madam
I
Secretary.
need a little help from a chair that respects the members of the
Madam
committee. I'm sorry, Madam
Secretary.
Chair. This is
Yeah, and now it's time for the fucking turtle to speak. I mean, again, this is now the second video in a row I've made about Kristi Noem. If you can watch that stuff and go like, yeah, dude, yeah, she's doing a great job. You're so fucking stupid. And we have more.
Thank you.
We have more.
Thank you. Vice Chair Murphy?
That's just going to get shitted
Thank
on
you
by
very
Chris
much.
Murphy.
Madam Secretary, AI is an enormous growing industry critical to the future economic health of the country. We have had the benefit over the years of the top talent in AI, researchers, students coming to the United States to help us grow that industry. But for the first time in the last 15 years, there are more top talented individuals and workers in AI leaving the country than coming here. And the reason is pretty simple. People who are coming here to work from overseas through the visa program are very uncertain about what their rights are.
Oh, yeah.
And that
Just
is
to be clear right now, if you're watching this and you're foreign and you're thinking about coming to the United States for any reason, for a vacation, for work, just to live here, don't. Do not come here. It is not safe for you. It is not safe for any foreigner to visit the United States of America. If we can find a way, we will throw you in CCOT. The United States of America is a fascist country. Again, to anybody outside of the United States of America who is thinking about visiting, do not come here. It is not safe. You are not safe here. American citizens are not safe in America. You sure as shit are not.
Because of the actions this administration has taken. So I think it's important to get on the record for those individuals who are here currently and those thinking of coming to the United States to work or to study to understand what their rights are. So let me ask you a series of pretty simple questions.
There's no simple questions you can ask MAGA sycophants.
Probably the key of right amongst the 5 freedoms is the right to free speech, the right to express your own personal opinion about politics, culture, the economy. Do you believe that you have the right to detain or deport a U.S. citizen for simply expressing their political opinion? A U.S. citizen?
No.
Do you believe that you have the right to detain or deport a legal permanent resident for expressing their political opinion?
I don't make decisions on legal status
answer's no.
here in the United States. The Department of State does that.
The answer's
and I would
no,
say that
you
as
dumb
they've gone through an
plastic-faced cunt.
evaluation of who gets a visa, who gets legal status, green cards, they've been evaluating and discussing how that applies.
Well,
to people
I acknowledge
that
that you don't.
country.
I acknowledge you don't make.
Right.
But if someone is a legal permanent resident of the United States, I'm not talking about an H-1B or a student visa holder. I'm talking about a legal permanent resident. If you are a legal permanent resident, do you have the right to detain or deport that person simply for expressing their political opinion?
The Department of State makes those decisions.
No,
and the
they don't.
Department of
She can't answer this question. MAGA, if you're still on the Trump train, you are quite literally a fucking idiot fascist.
Homeland
You make that decision about who you have the right to detain or deport. So you are involved in that? Do you believe the United States? Do you believe the law allows?
The Department of Homeland Security under the Trump administration is enforcing the law, following the constitutional rights of folks who are here as citizens, those who are here legally, and those who are here illegally.
So a legal
that
permanent
have
resident
final
is by
removal
definition
orders.
here legally. Do you believe, I mean, I think this is really troubling if you can't answer this simple question.
can't.
Do you believe that the U.S. government can detain and deport a legal permanent resident for expressing a political opinion that the administration disagrees with?
The determination you're asking for is based on things that you are determining.
The answer is yes. The answer is yes. She believes that she can deport all U.S. residents, all legal residents, all U.S. civilians if you disagree with the Fuhrer. You live in a Nazi regime. You live in an authoritarian regime. You live in a fascist nation. I am considered an enemy of the state. I am at risk of being deported because I'm extremely vocal about the Trump regime being a bunch of Nazis. That's the country you live in. MAGA will support this because they're all fascists. Yes, you watching this, you MAGA brain-dead, inbred, incel chud, who would be cheering and foaming at the mouth of people like me or Aaron Parnas or Kyle Kulinski or Hassan Piker. You're foaming at the mouth at the thought of us being thrown into CCOT. That's because you are a fascist. I hope that makes you feel better, Nazi fuck.
Secretary of State has considered and evaluated. We don't evaluate that, the administration, along with a partnership with the Department of State, on what is political speech and what's an affiliation with a foreign terrorist organization.
Do you believe?
That's the difference between
Do you
the two
believe
that you're asking
that you
me.
can detain
We
and
follow
deport
the
a
direction of
legal
Shut the
permanent
fuck up,
resident
bitch.
for expressing a political
We have not
opinion?
detained and we have not deported anybody who's a legal permanent resident or a
Well,
citizen
well,
of the
Mahmoud
United
Khalil.
States.
Then say you don't have the ability to
right.
do that.
We have not.
Clarify that for
is
the
true.
millions of.
That is exactly what I'm doing, is that we have followed exactly what the law is and that we have not detained or deported anybody who's a citizen or has legal status in this country. We
That's a
are
lie.
focused on the worst of the worst dangerous
You
criminals
do not believe you have
to
the
get them
ability.
out of
You
the
do not believe you
country.
have the ability to do that.
We have not done that at all, and the Trump administration has no plans
Well, just
to
because
do
you haven't
that.
done
We
it
do
doesn't
not
mean
do
that
it.
you won't do it in the
We
future.
are
Do you
following the
believe you have the
federal law
ability to do
ensure
that or
that
not?
we are doing
I think you
the
were gonna- I
exact
think- I
appropriate
think-
thing in
This is what
partnership
they
with the
do, by the way, because he's running on time. He gets a specific amount of time. So Kristi Noem and the rest of these fucking Nazi fucks will just continue to speak and not stop speaking and continue to speak and eat up the time and try and filibuster and do what I'm doing right now to make sure that the time keeps on going on and on and on and on and on. And that is why these people have to bang the gavel and reclaim their time and try to get some time back, because Trump sycophants, these Nazis, they know that if they're actually held to the fire, their feet are held to the fire, they will suddenly admit that they are actually fascists. So they do everything they can to avoid that.
Department of State and in partnership with the Trump administration.
Have you read I assume you have read the Supreme Court decision in the case of Kilmar Abrego Garcia.
Yes.
That court decision requires the administration to facilitate Kilmar Abrego Garcia's release from El Salvador. Can you describe the steps that you have taken to facilitate this release? And specifically, can you answer as to whether you have reached out to your counterpart in El Salvador to facilitate Mr. Abrego Garcia's release?
Abrego Garcia is a citizen of El Salvador and should never have been in this country and will not be coming back to this country. There is no scenario where Abrego
So you're
Garcia
violating the Supreme Court's ruling. So you're admitting that Trump is an authoritarian ruler and that you are a fascist. That's what you're admitting?
will be in the United States again. If he were to come back, we would immediately deport him again because he is a terrorist, he's a
not true.
human smuggler, and he
not
is a
true.
wife beater.
Does
That's not true.
You've read the Supreme Court decision. Does the Supreme Court decision not require you to facilitate the return of Mr. Abrego Garcia?
The Trump administration is complying with all court orders and
Incorrect.
judges' orders.
Does
Incorrect.
the Supreme Court order require you to facilitate the return of
Abrego
Mr. Abrego
Garcia
Garcia?
is a
Yes or-
citizen of
yes
El
or no?
Salvador.
She
It is
refuses
up
to answer the
pres-
question because she knows the Supreme Court has ruled that they must return and facilitate. But they refuse to do it because the Trump regime is an authoritarian regime, and you, who still supports him, are a fucking pathetic bootlicking Nazi cultist, and I wish you the fucking worst. Not you, though, who watches the channel and loves me.
President of the El Salvador to make the decision.
You're a defendant
on
in
if
the
he
case.
is coming back. It's been a big topic of conversation between all of us, between the country. When the president visited the United States of America, it was discussed and talked about there. The president has been very clear on this issue, as the Secretary of State and I have as well. Abrego Garcia is not a citizen of this country and is a dangerous individual who does not belong here.
I will
Let me be clear that if
not
you-
ask another question,
if you
Madam
were
Chair.
back
But the
in this
discussion,
country, we would
but
immediately
the discussion
deport him.
ends when the Supreme Court rules 9-0 that you have to facilitate his release. And the fact that you can't even acknowledge the wording of the order, which commands you to facilitate his release, and you advertise to this committee that you are going to willfully ignore the ruling. And that is
that is not
incredibly
true,
chilling
Senator.
for
I
the
do
balance
not-
of powers
that is
in
not true.
a democracy that relies on the executive branch to honor decisions made by the highest court of the land.
Yeah, so, I mean, listen. I know this is the second video in a row I've made about Kristi Noem, but I can't make it any more clear. If you still support Donald Trump, you are not an American anymore. I mean this. If you still support Donald Trump, you are not an American anymore. Sorry. Now, here's the thing. Even I still believe that you deserve the same fucking rights as me. Why? Because I'm not a fascist like you. But if you still support Donald Trump and his fascist regime, you're no longer an American. Again, thanks for tuning in. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. Costs you nothing and helps me immensely. And do me a favor, click that video over there. It's incredible. Catch you later.